BookTube, Sarah here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my weekly reviews for July the 6th through the 12th. So I read 7 books this week, so let's jump in and get started. The first book that I finished this week was Kristy's Mystery Admirer by Ann M. Martin. And this is, of course, a middle grade fiction novel. It is book number 38 in the Babysitters Club series. We're almost at book 40. I think there was in total like 120 some odd books in the series. I mean, I still have a long way to go if you include the mysteries and the super specials and all the special editions and stuff like that. But yeah, I am making some good headway into this series. This was originally published in 1990. 3.58 stars on Goodreads. I gave this one 3.5 stars. So the premise of this story is that Kristy starts getting these mysterious letters from a mystery admirer. And at first they're very sweet that this person likes her very much and things like that. And then they turn very, very sinister. And I could not remember who it was who sent her these letters. And I had a few different ideas. And my first thought, I thought, no, that can't be it. Because way back in Marianne's Bad Luck Mystery, which I think was book 17, and I know that not because I know this series so well, but because I am currently listening to, and I'm making my way through every episode from the beginning, of a podcast called the Babysitters Club, which is hysterical. If you guys are fans of the Babysitters Club series, you need to listen to this podcast. They've already gone through the entire original series, and they're now going through all the mysteries. They did the super specials as well. So this podcast is like 4 years old. But every week they would do a different book, and I just finished the episode of Marianne's Bad Luck Mystery. And it's 2 grown men who are in their 30s with kids and wives who are rereading through the Babysitters Club series, and each episode is a different book. They're hysterical, and I love them. But anyway, that's besides the point. So in Marianne's Bad Luck Mystery, the mean girls at school, for lack of a better term, started sending Marianne a chain letter and then told her she was going to have bad luck, and she didn't know it was from them. And then they eventually found out it was these girls. Koki was the one girl's name, and I can't remember the other girl's name. And they had sent her these letters, right? And then there was this big confrontation at Halloween. This one also takes place at Halloween because in this universe, nobody actually ages, but you go through all the seasons and holidays and things like that. And it turns out, spoiler alert, it was Koki again. And I'm like, okay, that's why I didn't think it was her. Because I'm like, she already did this with Marianne. Like, why are you going to do it again with Kristy? Kind of an idea. But it was still a really fun story. It was really cute because, Kristy kind of gets a boyfriend. She takes Bart to the Halloween hop. I can't remember his last name. But he has the other softball team. Like, she's got a softball team, and it's really, really cute. It was fun. What did I say? 3.5 stars. It was enjoyable. I had to remind myself when I was finished it that this was a middle grade novel and there wasn't going to be some big surprising twist. It was enjoyable. The next book that I finished was Someday Beach by Jill Sanders. This is a contemporary romance novel. It is book number 2 in the Grayton series. Published originally in 2015. Average rating of 4.22 stars on Goodreads. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was really enjoyable. And I do enjoy this series quite a bit. I talked about this book, I think, in one of my Friday reads, like not this one that we just did, but the week before. And in that, I talked about Jill Sanders, that until I found her books, she was not an author that was known to me. I actually think she might be, I'm pretty sure she's self-published. And her books are highly enjoyable. And this Grayton series is essentially about these kids who are foster kids. They came from very, very horrible situations, and they all met as children in this house where they were adopted by this older couple. And now they're all themselves, the kids are now adults, and you're getting each one of their different stories. And they all take place in this place, what's it called? Is it called Surfside or Surf City? Surf Breeze is the town name. And so it's very much I want to say like an Atlantic City or Jersey Shore kind of town. Somewhere off the East Coast, where the majority of the town's economy comes during the summer months when they get all the tourists in. So anyway, this is the story of Shelley and Marcus. And Marcus was one of the kids in this foster home, whereas Shelley is new to Surf Breeze. She comes from Boston, and she's decided to open up a shop on the boardwalk. But it is actually during the colder months. I believe this takes place, if I remember correctly, during the fall. So Marcus is a contractor, and he is actually going to be fixing up her shop. And of course, the two of them end up developing a relationship. Really, really cute contemporary romance series. If you guys have not read Jill Sanders, I highly recommend her. She does another series called The Pride that takes place in Oregon, and it is fantastic as well. She does some great characters. I do find she tends to go a little bit over the top with some of the situations that her characters end up in some situations. Like there was in some incidences, excuse me, there was one in one of the Pride books where this girl was like in a drive-by shooting, and I mean it took what could have been, you know, a bad situation, and she just kind of jumped the shark in a way, to use that turn of phrase. But they are still really enjoyable. If you like spicy, they are spicy contemporary romance novels, I do recommend her. The next one that I finished was, speaking of spicy contemporary romance novels, Her Last Temptation by Leslie Kelly. This one right here. As I said, contemporary romance novel, Harlequin Temptation number 1028, and it was the last in the series. Average rating of 3.59 stars on Goodreads. I gave this one 4 stars. So this is the story of Kat and Dylan. This book was really enjoyable. I really enjoy Leslie Kelly as an author, and I recommend her. I don't know how much she's currently writing. I should actually look that up to see if she's still writing anything currently. I mean, I know she wrote stuff for the Blaze line, but I don't know in the last few years how much she's actually written. But she's really good. She creates some really great characters. Like I said, the story of Kat and Dylan. And Kat's bar is actually being closed. She, at the very beginning of this book, you meet the 4 women who comprise the last 4 books of the Temptation series, or the Temptation imprint from Harlequin. And each woman had their own story, and I love the titles of them. There was like Goodnight Gracie. This one was called Her Last Temptation. One was called The 11th Hour. So, you know, they really played homage to the fact that these were the last in the series. I can't remember what the other book was called. Doesn't matter. But anyway, Kat has decided that since her bar is closing, she doesn't know what to do with her life. Sorry for the glare. She is going to kind of turn over a new leaf. And she's always kind of worked in this bar and gone after the bad boys. And she's like, I'm not going to go after the bad boys anymore. I'm going to get my life all straightened out and figure out, maybe go to school and what have you. And she meets Dylan, who is, of course, a bad boy in a sense. Like, he's got the looks, he's got the attitude and stuff like that. But it was just so, so good. I really, really enjoyed it. But I think what took this up a notch for me, from what would be a very good 3.5-star book to a 4, was the fact that it was the last in the Temptation line. I think that just kind of added the extra little bit of oomph to it. And I love the fact that they acknowledged it, and that they wrote to that point that this was it, that this was going to be the end of this line. Because I have seen other lines phase out from Harlequin. The American Romance line, or which was later called the Western Romance line. The Blaze line, when it went. The Super Romance line, which I also loved when it went. They didn't do this for that. They didn't make a big deal out of it. It was just something that was happening. Sorry, these are gone. But I love the fact that they actually acknowledged the fact that this line was ending and something new was coming. And I think that's what added to the enjoyment factor of this one all the more. But I do recommend Leslie Kelly. If you like some spicy contemporaries, I guarantee you can find these Blaze books, or these Temptation books, and the Blaze books, which are gone now too, at any of your local thrift stores or used bookshops, or a lot of them are available on the Kindle or for an ebook. So definitely go ahead and check them out. They are highly recommended. The next book I finished was Second Chance Pass by Robyn Carr. This is a contemporary romance novel. Virgin River book number 5, narrated on audio by Therese Plummer. This was published in 2009. 4.18 star average rating on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. Now, I had said last month when I read A Virgin River Christmas that if I didn't enjoy it, that I was going to DNF the series after this book. This book I did enjoy. I still found some issues with it. And I swear, guys, I'm not looking for issues with these books. I would not reread this series. Let's put it that way. I am enjoying them to a point for the most part, but this is not a series that I particularly would reread. But this is a very much loved series for a lot of romance readers. So this is the story of Vanessa and Paul, and you met Vanessa and Paul in previous books. Her husband was stationed overseas. She is a military wife, and she is pregnant with their first child. He's been gone for about 7 months. Yeah, 7 months, and then is killed in Afghanistan. And 2 months after his death, she gives birth to their little boy, Matty, that he's named after his dad. It's Matt Jr. And Paul is Matt's best friend. He served overseas with him, and told Matt, pretty much, if anything happens to you, I will look after your wife. But truth is that he's been in love with Vanessa since when her and Matt met, because they were all at a party at the same time. And Vanessa and Paul actually saw each other across the room first. But Matt was the one who actually went and approached her and started talking to her first. And then the two of them developed a relationship. And then eventually got married, and so the story goes. So this story, one of my issues with it is that it moved very quickly. Vanessa's husband, because her son was only about a month or two old. So her husband had only been gone, deceased, for 3 or 4 months when she started this relationship with Paul. And a lot of people had something to say about that even around town, because I was kind of put off by that. I'm like, that is far too soon, in my opinion. I mean, again, everybody grieves differently. Now, Vanessa did come out and say, technically, in a way, my husband has been gone for almost a year because he was serving, Okay, yes, I get that he wasn't there. But the fact is that he was alive. Yes, you might not have you've only exchanged a handful of letters, and you did do 1 or 2 video phone calls with him and 1 actual phone call, but he was still alive. That excuse, for lack of a better word, didn't really bode well with me, and I still felt it was too quick. I think the story could have moved forward maybe even a year. That had been a year since her husband's death, and then maybe things started progressing with Paul. So, that was kind of one of my hang-ups from this. The other hang-up with this one was that Matt's mother, of all people, was pushing some guy on Vanessa, to have a relationship with this person because her grandson needed a dad. Again, if this was a year after her son and Vanessa's husband's death, I could see it. It had been only a few months. So yeah, I had a few issues with that. There was also a scene in this book featuring the characters that you met in the first story. Mel, when she gives birth to their second, I can't remember her husband's name, Jack or John, I can't remember. When she gives birth to the second child and she has a medical incident, there is a scene in this book. I'm not going to talk about it because I actually found it, I get what happened, but I don't think we needed it in that kind of graphic detail. She was hemorrhaging, and I'm not going to say much more. If you guys have read the book, you probably know exactly what scene I'm talking about. I don't think it needed to be as detailed as it was. Let's put it that way. And then the last thing I just kind of wanted to say about this, it's something that I've kind of noticed about this series. Something that, as someone who doesn't have children, if I didn't have, now I don't have children because I chose not to have children. I could have probably carried a child to term. I don't know what it would have done to my personal health with my cardiac health, but I had a team of doctors who were willing to work with me if it was something that I really wanted to do. After hearing the pros and cons, I made the conscious decision that no, this is something I do not want to do. And my husband backed me on that 100%, because, it's our reasons, it's our personal reasons. So I am not a mother because I chose not to be one. There are a lot of people out there who would love to be parents, who would love to have children of their own. And due to infertility or medical issues or what have you, that is a dream that they are not going to be able to have. Now, there is always adoption, there is always fostering, but I know there are a lot of people that they want their own flesh and blood, and I get that. Believe me, I get that. Again, I said I chose not to have children for medical reasons. Garrett and I could have very easily decided to adopt a child, but we still chose to not go that route. Not because we don't think we would have loved that child any less. I don't want to get into this entire discussion. I didn't mean to get into this entire discussion. We just decided that, because at the time that we decided this, both of us were in our I was in my mid-30s, Garrett's 3 years older than me, and he's got 2 grown children, that we felt at that point in our lives to take on a small child, when the older I get, I'm going to be honest here, my health is not going to stay as it is. I don't know what's going to happen to me in 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 years. And to, suddenly, like, let's say we got an infant when I was 45, I'm looking at 55 before that kid goes off to college, 53, 55 before that kid goes off to college. And as a lot of you parents know, that's not where it ends. Ask my own parents. I'm 40. My mother bought me a vacuum last week because she loves me. And it doesn't end, you know what I mean? And we just decided that because we don't know, you never know, that and at that time too, finances and things like that, we decided this is the decision we made. Anyway, back to my original point, was that for people who are struggling with infertility or who are struggling with things like that, I do not think that this is a series that those people would enjoy. That's just my personal opinion. I have not struggled with it myself, obviously, but I know my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, after they had my niece, or my brother and sister-in-law, after they had my niece, because my niece is 9, my nephew is 2. So there's a 7-year age gap between those two kids. 7 years. And for years, they kept getting questioned, when are you having another? When are you having another? And for the first few years, my sister-in-law would be like, oh, there's lots of time. And then she told me, they ran into issues. That's why it took so long for them to have my nephew, because there were issues. So again, as I was saying about this book, for someone who's struggling that way, in this book, every flipping female character in this book is pregnant. I'm not kidding. This entire series, for a series that is called Virgin River, this book is filled to the brim with people having babies. And I mean, a guy looks at somebody sideways in a bar and she's pregnant. It's a little over the top in my opinion. And I don't use the term trigger because anything could be a trigger to anybody. There are some obviously very hot button rape, sexual assaults, things like that, that abuse that are bigger triggers. But this one, I could see if someone was struggling to be reading this, where it must be something in the water kind of an idea. So do keep that in mind. I just thought I'd mention it just because it really dawned on me even more so in this book than, as I've been reading through this series, I just keep noticing it, that this is a huge theme throughout these stories, is pregnancy and childbirth and being mothers and fathers and things like that. So anyway, on to the next book. Falling for Fortune by Nancy Robards Thompson. This is another contemporary romance. This was the week of... This has been the last couple months have been filled with contemporary romance, which is why, as I said, when I do the Create Your Own Readathon vlog next weekend, I am going to be reading some cozy mysteries, because Sarah needs her some cozy mysteries. I love my romance novels. Contemporary, historical, I don't care, but every now and then you need something a little different. This was book number 5 in the Fortunes of Texas Welcome to Horseback Hollow series. Harlequin Special Edition number 2330, published originally in 2014, average rating of 3.59 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was cute. So the premise of this series is the fact that it's the Fortunes of Texas is like the main series, and then the Horseback Hollow, there's the Fortunes of Red Rock, there's all these different fortune series, which you do not have to read in any particular order. Enjoy them as they are. Even these books, like, this might be number 5. You could read number 1, read number 5, read number 3. It doesn't matter if you read them in order or not, unless you want to read all your books in order, which is perfectly fine. Which is something I really feel I want to get back into doing again, because I'm not loving jumping through the series as much as I thought I would. But anyway, so this family of the Fortunes, there's like different offshoot branches, cousins, and what have you. And this is one branch of the family, and it's in Horseback Hollow, Texas. And the matriarch of the family just found out, like, just prior to the first book, that she is the long-lost sister of the Fortunes of Texas. And so her and her kids, which is something I had a major issue with at the beginning of these novels, took the Fortune family name. And this is the story of Christopher Fortune, who is one of her sons. And he has been offered a job at this Fortune Foundation in Red Rock, Texas, which is a slightly bigger town than Horseback Hollow. And so he's working for this foundation that does like good deeds and goes to school and deals with anti-bullying and things like that. And he meets, is it Kingsley? How do you say her name? Kinsley. Kinsley is her name. And she works there, and she's very buttoned up. She's very straight-laced. And he's got a thing for her. She has a thing for him. But neither one of them knows it. And they end up starting, of course, a relationship. So it is an office romance. But he is her superior, but not by much. My one issue with this book that I had is that I felt Christopher came off as kind of a lazy, everything was just handed to him on a silver platter kind of a character. He appeared in previous books and he seemed very snobbish and very stuck up, whereas in this book I felt that he was almost goofy in a way. At the opening of the book, he's playing like with his mini putt thing in his office, like not doing any actual work. And Kinsley seems to be doing the work for him. And he's kind of in a way taking the credit for it. So I didn't really like him as a character. He grew on me as the story progressed, and by the end, I ended up liking him. But at the beginning, he wasn't the most likable character. Still a fun addition to the series, and I enjoyed it. The next book that I finished, I really enjoyed, you guys. This was One Hot Cowboy Wedding by Carolyn Brown. Another, of course, contemporary romance novel. Book number 4 in the Spikes and Spurs series. I do love this series so much. Narrated on audio by Anne-Marie Lee. She does such a good job with these very southern books. And Carolyn Brown is famous for these very southern books, and they are so fantastic. This was originally published in 2012. Average rating of 4.25 stars on Goodreads, guys. I gave it 4 stars. This one was so much fun. So this was a marriage of convenience story. And right at the very beginning, we meet our 2 characters, Ace and Jasmine. And Ace and Jasmine have been best friends for a little over a year. She recently bought the Chicken Fried Cafe in town, in their small town. And so he's been coming in every day, and over time they have developed this best friendship. And he's kind of known as a player. He has a little red book with his initials on it that have all these women's names in them. And he goes out on all kinds of dates, and he has relationships, wink wink, with all these different women. And then he finds out that there's like this codicil in his grandfather's will that he was getting his grandpa's ranch. But within 3 or 4 years of him getting the ranch, he had to get married, and he had to stay married for a year. And he just found this out. He didn't read that part when the lawyer was doing the whole will part of the, the last will and stuff, like the reading of the will. That's the word I'm looking for, or words I'm looking for. And if he doesn't do that, it would go to his cousin Cole, who seems to be a very spiteful and mean character, and he wants the ranch because he wants to sell it. So anyway, he's kind of moaning this to Jasmine one night, and she's like, I'll marry you for a year. So their entire plan was to go off to Vegas, legally get married, and then just keep it quiet. They would go about their separate lives when they got back to this small town. No one would be the wiser. He could continue to go off and philander with other women, and she could run her cafe and be completely happy. But, of course, as fate would happen, they end up being the 5,000th couple to get married at this, like, Cupid's wedding chapel in Vegas. And as such, they end up winning this big prize pack and end up on television. That is national. So everybody in the small town finds out that they are married. So now they have to pretend that they married, of course, for love. And I loved the spin on it, that they were marrying for convenience, but nobody was supposed to know, but yet everybody found out. It was adorable. And of course, the 2 of them are thrown together in this situation, and, he can't be philandering around. And yeah, of course, a relationship bloomed from there. My one issue with this book, it would have gotten a slightly higher star rating from me, but the whole thing with Cole, with the cousin, with the whole marriage thing, you had a bit of it at the beginning where Cole actually comes and has words with Jasmine at her diner about, oh, I know this isn't a real marriage, and I'm gonna figure you guys out, kind of an idea. And then he never makes an appearance again. It's never even mentioned again. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. It's almost like Carolyn Brown forgot about him, because I thought maybe towards the end something would come up and be like, I found out that you guys just married for this reason, and oh no, it turns out we're actually in love and we're gonna have another wedding right now. That kind of an idea. Do you know what I mean? But it never came back up again, and I found that a little weird. But anyway, it was still a really enjoyable story. These are ones that get very hot and spicy. They do get hot and spicy, but actually I shouldn't say that. Carolyn Brown does the fade to black scenes. You get some graphic content, but it's like maybe a paragraph or even a half a paragraph, and then it does the fade to black. So, it does kind of let you know what's happening. It doesn't go to a certain extent. So, really, really enjoyable. Great, great Southern romance. I loved this one so much. And the last book that I finished this week was Giant Days Volume, I have Volume 1 here. It's Volume 2. This is, of course, a graphic novel. This is Giant Days bind up of books 5, 6, 7, and 8. This was published originally in 2016. Average rating of 4.01 0 stars on Goodreads. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I realize I can't give all of these 5 stars, even though a part of me kind of wants to. But these ones are really fun. I really can't get into talking too much about what these are about, other than the fact that this entire series, which I talked about last week because I finished volume 1 last week, is about 3 friends who have met in university. It takes place in the UK, and it's kind of their trials and tribulations going through university. And this volume was fun. We had one where Esther, my favorite character, she, who's kind of a gothy chick, she ends up dating like a teacher's advisor or something like that, like a student advisor, and very, very different from her, and she's trying to fit in with him. And then there's another one where Daisy, the girl who was homeschooled, she has been marathoning through, oh my gosh, what's that TV show? Friday Night Lights. And she's trying to like get everybody to do all these different things. It was really, really cute. I really enjoy these. The art in these are fantastic. If you get a chance, they're available from me from Hoopla. They're also available from Overdrive from my library. If you've got a chance, just go ahead and check them out. Now, I had said that I found them a bit wholesome, but I have to admit there is a bit of adult content in it, but there's nothing graphic. So everything is alluded to. There is, Susan has a boyfriend. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Karen absolutely loves him. Karen from Rather Be Reading is who I heard this series from. McGraw. And, you know, they're kind of having an adult relationship. So you do get a scene where the two of them are laying in bed, like with the sheets pulled up and stuff. So, of course, it is alluded to of what actually happened, but there's nothing graphic. There is, I think, a tiny, tiny bit of swearing in this. But still, in terms of what I typically read, these are very, very tame, and they're really, really enjoyable. And I do find some laugh out loud moments in these. I highly recommend these books. Anyway, guys, that is all that I have for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books that I read, and what did you think about them? And what was your favorite book that you finished this week? And I'd love to know that too. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everybody.